Chainsaw Man is a ride. If I could describe it briefly, it's an unadulterated mix of love, lust, and violence in a psychedelic heavy metal trip. Lately, Shonen manga has had many titles about demons and monsters blow up and be adapted into the most popular anime. Jujutsu Kaisen is a story about fighting curses, while Demon Slayer is, well, about slaying some demons. Both have the amazing action sequences animated, but even after those stories, I'm excited for what's to come with the adaptation of Chainsaw Man. In this video, I'll dive into some of Fujimoto's techniques that makes Chainsaw Man so appealing, both narratively and visually. Before I begin, I wanted to give a quick spoiler warning. If you haven't read the manga, I highly recommend you pick it up and do so, unless you want a reason to read it and don't care about getting spoiled. Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto is about Denji, an orphan fighting devils with his fellow devil dog, Pochita, to pay off a debt. When Denji gets killed, Pochita fuses with Denji's heart as part of a devil contract, and Denji is revived back as Chainsaw Man, part devil and part human. The rest of the story takes us on a wild ride as Denji joins the public safety devil hunters to go hunt some devils, beings created from human fears. Now, the demon or monster hunter trope has been done before, especially with characters being a hybrid in between the two beings. But the execution and art style is refreshing and surreal as abstract fears manifest as raw monstrosities. The most striking panels are the unveiling of these devils in such a menacing way, overwhelming beings beyond human control. It is in these manifestations of primal fear that Fujimoto depicts the demented madness of the devils inside us. But to combat the deepest and most intense fears of mankind is a crude protagonist with simple goals, drawn in a crude, sketchy art style, which I found so refreshing when comparing to other shonen protagonists with grand ideals and goals. Crude and sketchy, the art style matches the rough personality of Denji as he fights the unhinged chaos stemming from his past and the devils facing him throughout the story. Fujimoto executes the story in a highly saturated genre in manga currently in a unique way with a raw art style using techniques in curvilinear perspective, style variation with crude and refined lines, and motion lines to affect the pacing and movement of the sequences. My favorite manga has always had a cinematic quality to them, and it seems that there are a lot of inspirations in Fujimoto's work for movies and theater. The relationship between Denji and Pochita shares parallels to A Boy and His Dog. Aside from that, many of the devil forms seem to take inspiration from horror movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, and Alien. Just as he takes direct inspiration from movies, Fujimoto also uses the medium of film to develop dynamic camera-like angles with curvilinear and linear perspective. In moments where there is a setup before a confrontation with the devils, Fujimoto often makes use of close-up shots with 5-point perspective, portraying a background to engross the reader in the setting. In this setup, it is similar to a horror movie doing a big close-up before surprising the viewer with the big bad monster. And the curvilinear perspective enhances that focus in building tension and paying it off with gruesome visuals. You can see the contrast between the regular linear perspective he uses in scenes with lighthearted character interaction and curvilinear perspective when the conflict is rising. Here is light banter, and here is a devil reveal. The curvilinear perspective adds that effect as if you're looking in the character's point of view, so that the impact of the reveal of the devil hits like a truck coming at you full speed. Fujimoto enhances that effect of fear and paranoia with the distortion that curvilinear perspective provides, heightening the stakes in the first fight, and then intentionally plays with angles like a movie director with the camera throughout the story. With line art, you can portray form, texture, and movement. In black and white line art, these are the tools to communicate. Fujimoto does exactly this and plays with line variation for many different effects. Fujimoto switches his styles between light moments of comedy with sketchy and crude lines, and intense moments of conflict with ultra detailed textures and forms. In manga, there has always been a technique to switch to a more slapstick style for comedic relief, especially with shonen manga. But Chainsaw Man manages to do this same effect to lighten the mood in a more subtle way, while still maintaining a sense of realism. Denji's true aspirations have always been simple, yet very human: to be with a girl. His small goals are crude and physical, and they escalate as he has more interactions. The moments of character development are hilarious to watch as he reaches these goals and is unfulfilled by the physical interactions. In these slice-of-life moments, the art style is fitting. The lines are either very minimal or very warbled, as if it was sketched very quickly. Rough lines for rough interactions. Overall, these simple goals humanize Denji as a relatable character motivated to do superhuman things against inhuman evils. The rough art style of his modest interactions with humans directly contrasts with Denji's grand fights with devils as Chainsaw Man with more refined lines filled with detail. The insidious nature of the devils are shown through grotesque forms and textures, and Chainsaw Man's fights with the devils are strengthened by this stylistic choice in one-panel pages and full double-page spreads for some of the most powerful action shots. Accentuating these action shots is Fujimoto's wide use of motion lines. Each confrontation is filled with movement displaying chaotic action with focus lines and motion lines, letting the devils swing across the pages with fury. Motion and focus lines are commonplace in comics and manga, but Fujimoto uses these lines for movement at a dizzying frequency. This high frequency of lines helps to speed up the pacing in the story with little to no dialogue and low quantities of panels per page. All of this combined allows us to dash through the fights with great intensity. Throughout the narrative, Chainsaw Man introduces us to various devils for Denji to fight as they chase the gun devil as the final boss. But we quickly see the pace of the story go at lightning speed as the true antagonist reveals itself, and the arc wraps up with the final fight as a crescendo of Chainsaw Man's tumultuous story and art style. In a story about devils, Fujimoto is unforgiving to his characters. No one is safe as he introduces new characters and slaughters them with no mercy in just a few chapters, showing the ruthlessness of the devils they fight. Throughout the story, the main characters that grow together through their struggles are Denji, Aki, and Power. All of them learn to love. Aki defined his life by pursuing vengeance against the gun devil as his life goal. But by the end of his story, he is willing to give up his mission to continue living happily with Denji and Power. But then, tragedy. Dead. Aki turns into the gun devil he sought to kill and reveals the true antagonist, setting forth the final arc at rapid speed. Power, once willing to sacrifice Denji to the bat devil for her cat, develops a deep affection for Denji after a once quarrelsome relationship. But then, tragedy. Dead. Wait. A comeback? Nah, still dead. Denji, wanting to spend time with the girl he likes, develops his initial lustful desires into true love as he defeats the antagonist Makima with an act of love in a twisted manner that only Fujimoto could think of. These resolutions happen so rapidly, one after the other, as the arc develops these characters and concludes their stories with decisive fights. The payoffs feel right as they punch you again and again, with a chaotic awe as disorder is wrapped up quite neatly in a pretty satisfying way. Others who have followed the series may have had a different experience reading it from week to week, but reading the whole story through felt like a slow development, with pretty cool fights up until the last 20% of the story, where the unique qualities of the series were cranked up on steroids as the roller coaster ride finished with swiftness, but not abruptly as everything felt earned. My only criticism with the art and pacing of Chainsaw Man is that while the pacing magnifies the action scenes and supports the gut-wrenching developments in its main characters, some of the side characters are forgettable and even unintelligible. I can't even tell the difference between this trio of characters. This guy looks dope, but I don't know why he's here because he has exams to study for. The same thing can be said for some of the panels, as it is sometimes difficult to read what is going on, similar to an unstabilized camera moving around rapidly. I had no idea what was going on in some of these panels and had to really spend the time to decipher the CRUDE line work. These intentional art decisions gave Chainsaw Man that unique twist that made it so entertaining, but these effects also had its slight trade-offs. Overall, Chainsaw Man was an unadulterated, psychedelic beauty of a train wreck in the best way possible. With part 1 in the public safety arc included in the weekly Shonen Jump magazine, Fujimoto surprised us with the part 2, as the author switches magazines to Jump Plus to tell Denji's school arc. With the new digital magazine, I'm curious as to how Fujimoto will treat the series, as he may have more creative freedom with the digital publishing channel. But how far can Fujimoto take it on this new medium? Despite many satisfying resolutions that would make the first arc a great standalone series by itself, there are still a lot of things to be explored, like Denji's past and what's beyond the closed door, and how he develops in the human world to find loving relationships. I also can't wait to see how Studio Mappa adapts Chainsaw Man into an anime, as they've done an amazing job balancing different landmark titles with Jujutsu Kaisen, capturing their art style faithfully into a T, while also working on the last season of Attack on Titan. But time will tell. I'd love to know what you thought about the series so far in the comments below. With that, we wrap up our video. If you found this content helpful, please consider leaving a thumbs up below, and subscribe if you want to see more content about creating comics and manga. If you want to follow my other social media and work, the links are in the description. Finally, if you have any suggestions for future videos you'd like to see, please feel free to leave a comment below. I'll see you guys next time.